Hello, welcome to the first edition of 5.0 Deck Techs. Instead of doing my normal competitive list video where I do tons, like 6 different decks in one video, I'm going to instead end up breaking these down into individual deck techs. That way you can still get the 5.0 list, but you get to look up and basically search what deck you actually want to look at. I asked in a poll on my YouTube channel which one do you guys prefer, if I kept it as is or if I did it like this. Where the advantage of doing it like this, I guess, would be is if there's one deck in a given week that's actually relevant and sweet, I could actually just make a deck tech video for it rather than waiting for multiple decks to come up. Because there is periods of time where there's like nothing new or innovative and pioneer and other formats too, of course. But so today we're going to be talking about one deck, and that is Selesnya Midrange. So this deck is kind of sweet, so we're going to get into it. Now, the only time that there's going to be multiple decks in these deck tech videos is if there's two decks that have different takes of the same deck, right? So if it's a mono green devotion, and there's a gruff triplets list, and there's a non-special list, I'm going to cover them in the same video, break down the differences in the deck techs. If you like the series, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. We're on our way to 1,000 subs. Let's get there together. In this deck list, of course, like previous videos or series, the deck list is in the description. And if you like this deck, make sure you smash that like button so I know which decks are the fan favorites. So I'm more likely to use them maybe potentially for future videos. And let's get into the deck list. So the deck list, we have kind of like a semi-human package going on here with Recruitment Officer, Luminarch. Then we have our quote-unquote taxes style effects like Archon of Emeria, which is really good against Phoenix and Lotus Field. And then we have our mid-range pieces with Wandering Emperor, which is removal, counters, so it makes your stuff a little bit bigger. And it makes creatures. And then, of course, our in-game piece, besides Wandering Emperor, is Virtue of Loyalty. So that way we can get it down late, and it gives us a way to pump our dorks quite fast. Now, this deck does have a lot of +1/+1 counters sub-theme, because we also have Luminarch Aspirant in the deck to give counters, and Lion Sash is another card that technically gets counters. And then we have our 3 Redains, because it is good against Lotus Field, and it's good against Control. So that's pretty powerful. So pretty sweet. And the mid-range pieces are like for 1-drops are best suited for like Thraben Inspector, because it is a 1/2. It does block a lot of the 1-drops and 2-drops. Profitably trades most of the time, or gets a 1/1 and stays alive, but most likely it's going to trade. And you get a clue to use later in the game. Now, the mana base, we do have some green mana just for Dramoka's command. Nothing else, so it's kind of weird. Maybe it's not necessary, but, you know, it's fine to have it like that. We only have 1 forest and a bunch of thickets / farmlands and temple gardens. So the forest, of course, is what we're going to find it with most likely Field of Ruin, if we need it for Dramoka's command. And we also, of course, have Kellen, one of, at the top. So we can technically use the map, get a map token, and go from there. That is the main board. Surprisingly, we are playing 3 Castle of the Frost Dragon. It's not really a card that typically sees play. It's just kind of really hard cast. It's hard to actually get it going because it is like 5 mana, pretty much, to activate it, attack, and go down a land there. So it is interesting that they are playing this over the Llama, but, you know. Sideboard, though, we do have Evasion of Gomacon, pretty good against Control, also against Combo. We have 3 Rest in Peace for Lotus Field. I mean, not Lotus Field. You could do against Lotus Field because they do play the Chandra Loop, but also it's mainly for the Phoenix and Fang matchup. Then we have Hushbringer. It does do a decent job at stopping, I wouldn't say Troxa, but there's not really a Troxa. It doesn't really stop Vein Ripper. It also doesn't really stop Phoenix in any shape or form. I guess it does technically stop Amalia a little bit, just because it does stop the initial part of the chain. Then we have 4 wedding announcement for the grindy / Ragdoll midrange / control matchups. And 2 containment priest for the Phoenix / Ripper matchup / also it's pretty solid against Amalia because it does stop the Collected Company and Court Calling, so that's pretty relevant. Thalia as a alternative wing con, I guess. Like you could bring it in, tax out like quote unquote Lotus Field, control just to push out the rafts. That is our Silesian midrange deck. What are your thoughts on this list? Is it a deck that you think could potentially become mainstream and competitive in the Pioneer format? I think it's positioned decently well, right? So like it has pieces in the main board addressing most of the main deck, our top tier meta decks. We address Lotus Field, we address Phoenix, a little bit against the Amalia matchup, because Selfless Savior does help there, right? We get to basically either we can make, I'm pretty sure it's any creature, even if it's one of our creatures get indestructible, at least we can make an indestructible blocker, block Amalia, so we don't just immediately lose. But I'm pretty sure it can target any creature. If it can, we can technically make the Wild Growth Walker indestructible and go from there. Also, Giant Killer, we could technically kill the Amalia once it gets to a certain size, so to fizzle it. And then we, of course, like I said, we have Redain against control matchup. So like I said, we have like taxes-like effects that are good against the current meta. So that is our Silesian mid-range. Like I said, if you like this content, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification before you head out that door. And until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.